Welcome to Grace Abounds. I'm Pastor Emily Baton. Today, I will be sharing with you my Sunday sermons from St. John's Lutheran Church in Palm Desert, California. Thank you for joining us, and may you find grace, peace, and comfort in the message today. Each set of lectionary texts for any given Sunday always have a thread of similarity that ties them together. Sometimes that tie is subtle, and sometimes, like in the case of our first reading and the gospel, that tie is very clear. Both Naaman and the 10 men who approach Jesus have a skin disease that is greatly troubling them. The condition is unknown as it is not specified for Naaman, and though the gospel has interpretations where the 10 men's condition is called leprosy, as I said, this was a catch-all term for those with skin disease. What is known is that they would have all been kept from the temple for being ritually unclean. Naaman, having a higher social standing, was given more liberties and access compared to the 10 men who were ostracized from their community according to the law, as it is written in Leviticus. The person who has the defiling disease shall wear torn clothes, and let the hair of his head be disheveled. And he shall cover his upper lip and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." He shall remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He shall live alone. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. This was true for the 10 who had leprosy. But Naaman had connections that these men didn't. And maybe that's why he struggles so much when things don't go according to his expectations. Naaman is given instructions on how the Lord will make him well, but they are not challenging enough, not worthy enough for what he imagined. Wisdom comes from an often disregarded source, his servants. But to Naaman's credit, he listens and is healed. He then returns, a foreigner, to Israel, and proclaims Elisha's God as the one true God. Here is another parallel with the gospel text, for it is the foreigner, the Samaritan, who returns to Jesus after being healed to offer thanksgiving. Our Bible is full of examples of those deemed outside society being the first at Jesus' feet. Our society is no stranger to turning the stranger away, directly or indirectly. There are so many places inaccessible or unattainable for those who look, speak, act, or act differently than the accepted norm. A clear example of this are those who are differently abled or labeled as disabled. Their inability to meet certain standards or expectations leaves them treated as deficient, as needing to be fixed. At best, they are ignored, and at worst, they are treated as less than a person. But it is impossible to lack personhood, for each person is made in the image of God. But that does not stop some from treating others in this way. Judith Snow, a writer, presenter, and theologian, speaks beautifully about this truth through her own experience of being born with quadriplegia, meaning that she has no control over her body below her neck. In one of her presentations, she speaks of what it is like to be looked at as who you could have been, rather than who you are now. And that person you are now is fully human and made in the image of God. as she says, "If I recognize that I am a perfect reflection of the creator of the universe, then it is perfectly okay for me to believe that God is quadriplegic, having no hands and no feet, obviously because God has no body." She emphasizes that we are the hands and feet of God, just as Jesus was, using our unique gifts to serve the world. Judith's wisdom highlights something I have always found challenging in this text. That is, that when the 10th man who had leprosy comes to Jesus and thanks him, Jesus says, "Your faith has made you well." And it is not only the time this sentiment is seen in the Bible when Jesus heals. I find this difficult because it seems to imply that you must have enough faith to be healed, which even more problematically implies that if you are not healed, it is because you do not have enough faith. Many people have been hurt by this way of thinking, told that they are not good enough for God's grace, that the impossible situation they are in is because of their own lacking. Imagine Judith hearing that from someone, that she simply isn't trying hard enough to be healed. First, I'm sure Judith wouldn't have to imagine, as instances like this happened to her often. Second, who said she needed or wanted to be healed from her body that is a gift made in the image of God? These stories have more connection than just the bodily ailments. They exemplify the incredible power of the Most High to claim us for who we are and to make us well. Judith knew inherently what took Naaman a while to understand. Judith didn't need to do anything or be different to receive the grace of God. She simply needed to live into who she was, a created child of God. Jesus sees the 10th man for who he is, not the sin condition, and this man sees Jesus for who he is, not the one who would simply fix him, but the one who can save him. That is the healing power of Jesus. What if Jesus didn't come to fix the world, but to make it well? When the 10th man comes to Jesus, he is for all intents and purposes fixed, healed of his disease. He doesn't need Jesus anymore. So why does he come back? To be healed more deeply, to be made well. Made well, sesoken in the Greek, from the root word sozo, meaning saved. For we know that every ailment does not have a cure, that injustice continues in this world unchecked. We don't have to look far to see the hurt and grief in each other's eyes, and that grief mirrored in our own. I had a professor in seminary who would say, Jesus saves, Jesus heals, Jesus may or may not cure. And you and I have every right to scream at the unfairness of that, because it is. And in that place, I want us to remember that Jesus, the hands and feet of God, suffers with you, that there is healing to be found at the foot of the cross, a healing deeper than anything we could imagine, that provides peace for our soul and accepts everything that we are. Remember that the healing power of God resides in your own hands and can be extended to one another, providing relief in this weary world so that all might be made well. Amen. Thank you for listening. Each week's episode is edited by Nick Cox with music by St. John's Worship Band. This week's sermon is by me, Pastor Emily Baton. Make sure to subscribe, and if you would like to know more about St. John's mission to know Christ and make Christ known, please visit our website at stjohnslutheran.church. May God be with you this day.